Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. The words dropped with a sneer, sharp and rehearsed. The boutique was silent. Glossy marble floors. Polished racks lined with $1,000 jackets. The kind of place that didn't sell clothes. It sold status. And at the center of it all stood a man in worn-out sneakers, faded jeans, and a jacket that hadn't been fashionable since the late 90s. Joseph, 68, retired postal worker. Quiet hands. Kind eyes. He wasn't causing a scene. He wasn't filming TikToks or asking for discounts. He was just standing there, holding a blazer. Simple, dark gray, timeless, but not in his price range, according to the saleswoman. Her name was Amber, early 30s, all edge and cheekbones. Her laugh echoed off the mirrored walls as she turned toward her co-workers behind the register. Someone please tell Grandpa that Goodwill's 2 blocks down. The others laughed, loud enough for him to hear. That was the point. Joseph's hands trembled slightly as he set the blazer back on the rack. I wasn't going to buy it, he murmured. Just like the cut. Amber tilted her head. Of course you did. Her tone, a velvet dagger. Customers watched. Some giggled. Most looked away. No one intervened. The old man gave a quiet nod, turned toward the door, and walked straight into a man entering the boutique. He stumbled slightly, looked up, startled. The man he bumped into didn't react with irritation or superiority. He gently reached out to steady him. Are you okay? He asked. His voice was calm, warm, familiar. Joseph blinked, and so did Amber, because the man helping the old stranger regain his footing was wearing a plain gray T-shirt, soft leather boots, and a face known around the world. Keanu Reeves. And he was watching. Amber's smile froze. Her eyes darted from Joseph to the man now standing beside him. Keanu Reeves. There was no mistaking him. The jawline, the quiet posture, the calm like a storm just before it hits. But what unsettled her most was this. He wasn't smiling. He didn't say a word. He just looked at her. Not cruelly, not angrily, but directly. Joseph stepped back, clearly flustered. I'm sorry, didn't see you there. Keanu shook his head gently. No need to apologize, sir. Sir, one word, and it landed like a stone dropped in a still pond. Amber let out a dry laugh, trying to reclaim control. Wow. Keanu Reeves in our store? What brings you here? He looked at her, head slightly tilted. To shop, he said plainly. Oh, well, of course. We'd be happy to. I was actually following him, Keanu added, nodding toward Joseph. The air in the boutique went thin. Amber blinked. You were? Keanu gave a soft smile. He has good taste. Joseph looked at him, stunned. You don't have to. But Keanu held up a hand, kind and firm. I meant it. He walked over to the blazer Joseph had returned to the rack, picked it up, ran his fingers across the fabric. Classic, cut, good shoulders. No loud branding, just clean lines. He turned to Joseph. Would you try it on? Amber laughed nervously. I am sure we can find something more your style, Mr. Reeves. But he didn't even look at her. Please, he asked Joseph. Joseph hesitated. I don't think it's in my budget. Keanu smiled. Let's not worry about that today. And there it was. No big speech. No viral clapback. Just a man who saw value where others saw none. Amber opened her mouth to say something. Anything. But Keanu finally turned to her. And this time, he spoke not with charm but with clarity. Do you work on commission? She straightened, instantly hopeful. Yes. He handed the blazer to Joseph, then turned back to her. Then you may want to consider who you're choosing not to help. Silence. Even the music in the store felt quieter. Keanu turned to Joseph again. Let's find a fitting room. And they walked past her. Not fast, not rude, just through, like she wasn't there at all. The walls of the fitting room were lined with gold trim and false perfection. A polished mirror. Soft spotlight. A bench too low to be comfortable. Joseph stood in front of it awkwardly, the blazer resting across his forearms like it belonged to someone else. Keanu leaned against the wall, hands in his jacket pockets. as if they were two old friends waiting out a storm. "You don't have to try it on if you don't want to," Keanu said gently. Joseph exhaled through his nose, almost a laugh. "No, I want to. I just—" He trailed off. "You just what?" Joseph looked down at the fabric in his hands. "It's been a long time since I wore anything new," he said. "A long time since someone thought I should." Keanu said nothing. Let the silence hold the weight. Joseph continued, voice softer now. "I was married for 34 years. She used to dress me up for weddings, family photos. Always said I looked sharp in dark gray." He smiled for a second, then blinked hard. "She passed last spring. Cancer. Fast." The fitting room went still. Keanu took a slow breath, nodding. "I'm sorry. I don't go out much anymore," Joseph admitted. "But my granddaughter's graduating next weekend. First in our family to get a college degree." He looked down at the blazer again. "I just wanted to look like someone she could be proud of." Keanu stepped forward. Not closer, just present. "You already do," he said. The words were simple, but they landed. Joseph finally slipped one arm through, then the other. The blazer fit. Not perfectly, but truthfully, like it had been waiting for a man with quiet strength and stories in his wrinkles. Keanu nodded. "There it is." Joseph looked in the mirror, not at the suit, but at himself. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't see what was missing. He saw what was still there. Meanwhile, outside the fitting room, Amber hovered near the counter, jaw tight, pride bruised. One of her co-workers whispered, "You think he's really buying that for the guy?" Amber didn't answer, because deep down she knew, and it burned more than surprised her. The fitting room door creaked open. The boutique, once buzzing with low conversation and curated background music, seemed to pause. Joseph stepped out, blazer buttoned, shoulders pulled back, chin lifted, not out of pride, but out of something deeper, honor rediscovered. The man who had entered shy and shuffled now moved like he belonged to the space around him. Because dignity doesn't ask for permission. It just walks in. Keanu followed a few steps behind, hands still tucked into his jacket, his presence steady and unassuming but unmistakable. Amber glanced up from the counter, her arms crossed tightly. The smirk she once wore like armor had disappeared. Now there was only discomfort and silence. The other customers looked on. One woman elbowed her friend and whispered, "He looks amazing." A teenage boy in designer sneakers nudged his mom. "Isn't that Keanu Reeves?" But Keanu didn't acknowledge the murmurs. He looked only at Joseph. "You ready?" he asked. Joseph nodded. "Yeah, think I'll take it." He reached for his wallet. Keanu raised a hand. "No need," he said. "This one's on me." Joseph's eyes widened. No, I couldn't." "It's not charity," Keanu said. "It's thanks." "Thanks." Joseph blinked. "For what?" "For reminding me what real style looks like." He smiled. Joseph stood still for a moment, swallowed hard, then nodded once deeply. At the register, Keanu turned to Amber, who now looked like a child caught cheating on a test. "You still work on commission, right?" he asked, voice calm. She nodded. "Yes, sir." He placed a second blazer on the counter. Sleek, modern, probably worth more than most rent checks. "Ring this one up, too. But split the commission with whoever didn't laugh." Amber's lips parted, but there was nothing left to say. Outside, sunlight poured across the pavement. Joseph stepped through the boutique doors, blazer catching the breeze, face lifted to the sky. A girl walked past and smiled at him, not because she knew him, but because she saw him. Keanu followed behind, pulling his sunglasses from his pocket. He didn't say goodbye, didn't pose for a photo. He just offered a quiet nod and walked the other way. Joseph's apartment was nothing special. 3rd floor, no elevator. The kind of place where the paint chipped near the corners and the mailbox creaked when it opened. But it was his. And after a long day, even a strange one, it felt good to be home. He climbed the stairs slowly, still wearing the blazer. Not because he forgot, because he didn't want to take it off. He reached his door and stopped. Something was resting on the doormat. A white envelope. No stamp. No address. Just his name, Joseph Turner. Typed, clean, centered. He glanced around. The hallway was empty. Just the hum of a neighbor's TV down the hall, and the faint smell of someone microwaving leftovers. He picked it up, opened it. Inside, a folded letter and something else. A VIP guest pass for the Pacific Arts Gala, scheduled for that weekend. Gold trim, black tie, celebrity attended, invitation only. Joseph blinked. Read the letter. Underscore Mr. Turner, we understand you're the proud grandfather of this year's first-generation graduate at Brighton State. We'd be honored to provide you with a guest pass to the Pacific Arts Gala. There's no required dress code for dignity. But if you decide to wear that blazer, we think it'll fit the room just fine. Underscore. Kiar. Joseph leaned back against the wall, closed his eyes. He hadn't told Keanu his granddaughter's name, or where she was graduating, or when. But somehow the man knew, not just the moment in the store, the meaning behind it. That weekend, Joseph did wear the blazer. And when he entered the gala, just a little stiff, a little nervous, but standing tall, people turned to look, not because they recognized his face, but because he carried something they hadn't paid for, grace. And about 20 minutes after he arrived, a familiar voice called from across the room, "Save me a seat, will you?" Joseph turned. Keanu Reeves, black suit, no tie, holding 2 sparkling waters like they were good whiskey. Joseph grinned. "Only if you promise not to make me dance." Keanu smiled back. No promises. 2 days after the gala, Joseph returned to the boutique, not to shop, not to prove anything, just to walk through the place as the man he now knew himself to be. But when he opened the door, it wasn't Amber who greeted him. It was a different voice, softer. Maya, early 20s, quiet eyes, always working the far register. She'd been there during the incident. Didn't laugh, didn't speak, didn't stop it either. Joseph gave a small nod as he stepped in. She returned it, hesitantly. He didn't stay long, just looked around, smiled politely, and turned to leave. But just as he reached the door, Maya called after him, "Mr. Turner?" He turned. She stepped forward, hands clasped nervously. I was there that day." Joseph smiled gently. "I remember." "I didn't say anything," she said, "and I should have." He shrugged. "You weren't the one laughing." "No, but I didn't stand up either." There was shame in her voice, but also something stronger underneath, something ready to move. She continued, more quietly now. "I grew up watching people get talked down to. My dad cleaned office buildings at night. I used to wait in the lobby with a coloring book while he emptied trash cans upstairs." Her eyes shone now. "When you walked out that day and Mr. Reeves followed you, I realized I'd become the kind of person who watches from the sidelines. And I don't want to be her anymore." Joseph looked at her for a moment, then stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to be loud," he said. "You just have to show up the next time it matters." Maya nodded, lips pressed tight. Then she handed him a slip of paper. "This came in the mail for you. He sent it here, thinking you might stop by." Joseph unfolded it. Another note. "Underscore there's still good work to be done, and it's better when we do it together. Underscore Kiar." On the back, a phone number, and a single line, "Looking for someone who understands people." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Is that?" Joseph smiled. "Yeah," he said. "It is." The phone didn't ring long. Just once. Then, "Hello." Joseph recognized the voice instantly. Steady, gentle, the kind of voice that didn't chase attention, but held it all the same. "Keanu, I didn't expect you to call so soon," he said. Joseph chuckled softly. "I figured you weren't the kind of man to leave a number without a reason." "You figured right." A pause. Then Keanu said it plainly. "I'm working with a team, a small outreach program. We help people transitioning out of service jobs. Custodians, line cooks, hospital workers. Folks who've been on their feet for decades but never had a seat at the table." Joseph listened, quiet. Keanu continued. "It's not a foundation with a shiny name. We're not looking for attention, but we're building something. Another pause. I'd like you to be part of it. Joseph raised an eyebrow. What makes you think I'm qualified? Keanu's voice didn't waver. Because you know what it's like to be unseen, and you never let it turn you bitter. Joseph didn't respond right away. He stared out the window of his apartment, where sunlight was warming the frame of a family photo, his wife holding their granddaughter as a toddler. He thought about the boutique, the blazer, the people who watched, the ones who turned away, and the man who didn't. I'm not a public speaker, he said finally. Good, Keanu replied. We've had enough of those. We need someone who knows how to listen. Joseph smiled. I can do that. That weekend, Joseph attended his first meeting. Not in a suit, not with a speech, just with a notebook and an open heart. The group was small. A former security guard, a cafeteria cook, a bus driver who just retired and didn't know what to do with her hands now. Joseph sat among them, not as an expert, but as a peer. And when someone asked, "What made you want to do this?" he simply said, "Because someone saw me when I didn't even see myself." The video had gone viral. Joseph didn't post it. Neither did Keanu. But someone at the gala had captured a moment. Joseph standing beside Keanu in that blazer, smiling as the crowd applauded his granddaughter on stage. The caption read, "Not all heroes wear capes. Some wear blazers and walk out of boutiques with Keanu Reeves." Within 48 hours, it had 2 million views. Comments flooded in. Some shared their own stories of being overlooked. Some praised Keanu. Others praised the quiet man beside him. But Joseph didn't care about the numbers. He wasn't chasing attention. Still, there was one message he didn't expect. It came in the form of a voicemail. Unfamiliar number. Familiar voice. A voice he hadn't heard in 12 years. "Dad, I saw the video. I didn't think I'd ever hear your voice again, let alone see you on the internet. I don't know if this is okay, or if you even wanted to reach out, but if you do, I'd like to talk." Rachel, his daughter, their last conversation had ended in silence and slammed doors. Words about choices, missed birthdays, pain neither of them wanted to admit they caused. He'd kept her photo on the fridge all these years. Now her voice was coming back through the static. He sat in the quiet for a long time, staring at the phone in his hand. Then he pressed play again, not because he didn't hear it, but because he needed to believe it. That evening he called her back. No script, no defense, no pretending it hadn't been years. She answered on the second ring. There was a beat of silence, then a breath. "Hi, Dad." His eyes stung. "Hey, sweetheart." No one cried. No one shouted. They just talked. Not about the past. Not yet. That would come later. They talked about her job. Her son, his grandson, who liked comic books and strawberries. They talked about life. About starting again. Sunday morning came with a quiet nervousness. Joseph had cleaned the apartment twice. Straightened the same photo frame 3 times. Changed shirts, then changed back. He told himself it didn't matter what he wore. But it did, because she was coming. Rachel. 12 years of silence weren't something you walk away from easily. But today wasn't about walking away. It was about walking back. He heard her car before he saw it, then footsteps on the stairs. And when the knock finally came, he hesitated for half a second before opening the door. There she stood. Same eyes. A little older, a little stronger. In her arms, a boy no older than 7, wearing a Spider-Man hoodie and clutching a juice pouch. "Hi," she said. Joseph smiled. Tears barely held back. "You came." "Of course we did." He crouched slightly, meeting the boy's curious gaze. "You must be Liam." The boy nodded. "Your Grandpa Joe?" Joseph chuckled softly. "I guess I am." Rachel looked around. "Is this the same place?" "Yeah, a little dustier, a little quieter." "Looks good," she said. She wasn't talking about the apartment. They spent the afternoon in the park nearby. They fed ducks. They told small stories. They walked slowly, not because of age, but because this was the kind of walk you didn't rush. At one point, Joseph sat on the bench while Rachel and Liam chased Leaves down the path. And from across the street, leaning against a tree in jeans and a hoodie, stood Keanu. He didn't wave, didn't approach, just watched for a moment. Saw the way Joseph laughed, the way Rachel smiled, the way the boy leaned into his grandfather like he'd always known him. That was a reward. Not headlines, not viral clips. Just this. Keanu turned, hands in pockets, and walked away. Because his part in the story was never about staying. It was about making sure it kept going. The sun dipped lower in the sky. They sat on a park bench beneath a row of trees turning orange at the edges. Liam dozing against Joseph's shoulder, juice pouch long forgotten. Rachel sipped from a coffee she barely touched. They'd laughed. They'd caught up. But now came the part that wasn't easy. Rachel glanced at her father, then down at her hands. You know, she began quietly, I used to hate the smell of industrial cleaner. Joseph raised an eyebrow. That lemony chemical scent you always brought home on your clothes after work, she explained. I'd wrinkle my nose, pretend it was gross. Joseph gave a small smile. Well, to be fair, it was gross. She laughed once, then shook her head. No, it wasn't. She paused. I didn't hate the smell. I hated what it reminded me of. Joseph's smile faded. Rachel continued, her voice steady but soft. Because while other kids' parents came to career day in suits, you came in your work shirt, with the patch on the chest and scuffed boots. She looked at him now. I was embarrassed. And I never told you. And that's something I'll always carry. Joseph didn't speak. He just waited. I thought success looked a certain way, she said. But then I got older, and I saw how many people wear suits and still walk around empty. Mean. Shallow. She looked him in the eyes. And you always came home. You always made sure I ate. You worked graveyard shifts, so I could have textbooks. You never had a vacation, but you never let me feel that. Her eyes filled, but she blinked it away. I didn't know it back then, but you were the richest man I knew. Joseph swallowed hard. He couldn't speak either, because sometimes silence is the emotion. Rachel placed a hand over his. I was so angry at you when Mom got sick. I thought you should have done more. Fought harder. But now I see you did. You just fought quietly. Joseph turned his hand, lacing his fingers with hers. I didn't always know what I was doing, he whispered. Rachel smiled, tears slipping free. None of us do. And behind them, unnoticed, a passerby paused on the path, snapped a photo. Not of Keanu, not of fame, but a man in a simple blazer, with a sleeping boy on his shoulder and a daughter finally leaning in again. The photo made the rounds in small places first. A community Facebook page, a local paper's Sunday edition. Then someone posted on X. No hashtags, no filters, just a caption. Saw this man today sitting in the park. He wasn't famous, but the way his daughter leaned on him said everything. Except he was famous now, not for movies, not for politics, but for something rarer. Restoration, the image. Joseph in his dark gray blazer, his grandson asleep against him, Rachel leaning close, a hand over his. 3 generations connected in a still frame. The internet doesn't always pause for peace, but this time it did. I haven't spoken to my dad in 8 years. Sending this. Real wealth, real legacy. This hit harder than any inspirational quote ever could. And then the question started. Who is this man? Is this the same guy from a boutique story? Wait, is that Keanu Reeves in the background? Because yes, barely visible in the photo's edge, sitting under a tree, hoodie up and head down, was Keanu. Of course. Not posing, just present. A journalist reached out, then a podcast, then a nonprofit. And soon, Joseph wasn't just a story. He was a spark. 3 weeks later, a community hall in West LA hosted a panel called Dignity at Work, Quiet Lives, Loud Impact. Joseph didn't want to speak at first. He wasn't a public speaker. But Rachel came with him, and Liam sat in the front row, swinging his legs under a folding chair. And when Joseph stepped up to the mic, blazer pressed, voice shaking just a little, he said, I don't have a degree. I don't have a big platform. But I spent my life cleaning up after people who thought I was invisible. And I just want to remind you, no one is. The room went quiet. Then it erupted, not because of a punchline, but because everyone in that room had once felt unseen. And now they saw themselves in him. The sun had dipped low, throwing long gold shadows over the sidewalk outside the community hall. The chairs were stacked, the lights dimmed, the crowd gone home, their hearts a little heavier, in the best kind of way. Joseph stood near the exit, blazer folded over one arm, sipping from a paper cup of lukewarm coffee. Rachel and Liam were loading up the car. That's when he heard it. You were incredible. He turned, and there he was, Keanu Reeves. Same hoodie, same boots, same unreadable kindness in his eyes. Joseph laughed softly. You always show up like you're not famous. Keanu smiled. It works better that way. They stood in silence for a moment, the kind only old souls earn. Then Keanu said, quieter, You know, I've done a lot of things in my life. Movies, interviews, red carpets. But the best thing I ever did was follow an old man into a fitting room and listen. Joseph looked at him, surprised. I thought you changed my life. I didn't, Keanu said. You changed mine. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, weathered notebook. Joseph recognized it, the same kind he used to jot notes in during his first outreach meetings. Keanu flipped to the first page. Real style is how you carry people when no one's watching. I wrote that after watching you, Keanu said. It reminded me of who I want to be. Joseph swallowed hard. No words came, but that was okay. Some truths don't need repeating. Keanu extended his hand. Joseph shook it, firm, honest. Then Keanu turned to walk away, as he always did, quietly, gently, like Miss retreating into morning. But before he disappeared around the corner, he called back, Thank you, Mr. Turner. Joseph stood there, watching the space where Keanu had been. Then he looked down at his own hands. Rough, calloused, strong. And he smiled, because now he knew the world didn't need him to be anyone else. Just a good man who finally got seen. Sparkles, thanks for watching. If this story moved you, be sure to subscribe for more powerful stories like this one. Let us know in the comments. What moment hit you the hardest in Joseph's journey? And what would you have done if you were in Keanu's place or Joseph's? Your voice matters. Your kindness echoes. See you in the next story.